Scorro? Fuori. Questo possiamo anche non metterlo?
Sì, per favore. Io non lo metto.
Che è scomodo.
Puttana, sta coppa, la volevo da una vita.
Che cabra,
Bella, eh?
lo volevo da un
Non è
po'.
totale.
Sì.
C'è tuo prato.
Cosa fa?
Molto grande.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you here for our Sunday post-race press conference at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. What a weekend we've had here at the Red Bull Grand Prix of the United States. After yesterday's fantastic sprint, we had another brilliant Grand Prix here today over 20 laps. And once again, for the fifth race in succession, the victory and leading all laps was Pretty Racing's Marco Bezzechi. Marco in the modern MotoGP just the third rider with Valentino Rossi and Marc Marquez to win 5 races in a row, and today leading every single lap. He's now led the last 121 laps in MotoGP, which is a new record, continuing with this amazing run that Marco and the team are currently on. It's yet another Aprilia 1-2, just as it was in South America in Brazil last weekend. Congratulations once again to Jorge Martin for Aprilia Racing after his brilliant sprint win yesterday as well. And a great way to celebrate his 100th Grand Prix start here in COTA today. On the podium in third place, Pedro Acosta, racing, of course, for the Red Bull KTM factory racing team. Gentlemen, well done to all three of you. Another fantastic weekend, Marco. We'll start the press conference with you. As I just mentioned, you're the 8th rider to win 5 races in a row in the MotoGP World Championship. The first to win the first 3 in a season since Marc Marquez back in 2014. This golden run continues. Today was a tough battle. Did you expect, once again, Marco, to be the winner and to lead every lap just as you did in the previous 4?
Well, to be completely honest with you, no, not at all. I mean, after yesterday, it wasn't easy to keep myself focused. I made a small mistake, but with a big consequence. So I was quite sad, and fortunately, the whole team, my crew especially, obviously, but the whole team was super close to me to try to give me the charge, let's say, to continue pushing, continue working, and then we worked till late night in the box to try to fix everything, to try to look at every detail that I could improve in my way to ride the bike, and I didn't expect at all a day like this, but I'm super happy for how it's gone.
We're just seeing on screens, Marco, a replay of some high drama on the first lap of the race. Of course, a contact with Pedro Acosta on the first lap as you exited turn 11. A close call for both of you. Just talk us through it from your point of view.
Yeah, it was a tough episode, let's say, because in that corner the wind was pushing a lot. I saw Pedro going wide. I also went a bit wide. I tried to overtake him in the exit. And when I was putting my head inside the fairing again, I was so close, and I touched him with the device, and everything was difficult to avoid the contact. Fortunately, nothing was going too bad, apart from that I broke everything in my bike. I don't know if I broke also his one. I hope not, but yeah, this was the episode.
And 5 wins in a row, leading every single lap. 121 laps now in a row that you've led. Your name up with some of the very best MotoGP riders we've ever had in history to win 5 races in a row. Can you just explain, Marco, this current run, this experience you're living right now?
It's tough to explain. I mean, I don't know how to describe my emotions, because obviously it's something that you never expect, and I work so hard, obviously, like all the MotoGP riders, to try to achieve this kind of result, but at the end you never expect to make something like this. So very happy, but as I always say, feet on the ground, let's continue working, because at the end these are just numbers, and I want to continue in this way.
congratulations, Marco, once again. Enjoy at the moment because it's a fantastic time for both you and for Aprilia. It's been some 7 days, as we just mentioned, for Jorge Martin, second out in the World Championship. Jorge, 4 podiums in a week in Brazil and here in the United States, including a sprint win yesterday. You really pushed Marco hard in that Grand Prix, but as just mentioned, 4 podiums in a week. What a week it's been for you.
Yeah, I'm so grateful. I know what is going. Being in a deep moment. So I'm really happy. I'm enjoying a lot the moment. Really here and now, being present because you never know what is going to happen next time. So really happy about my performance. For sure, I tried to push Marco to the limit. I think I misunderstand a bit the situation in the race because I thought the best option was to be behind Pedro and Marco, but then I realized I overheat a bit the front and I wasn't able to do anything else. Anyway, I tried to push Marco till the end, but he was unbelievable fast. He's on an amazing level, and I try to never give up as always.
There were 2 big moments in that Grand Prix that you saw and then you also experienced, the contact with Marco and Pedro on the first lap. You were right behind that. Talk us through that one, how you saw it.
Yeah, so I saw Pedro was really wide, then Marco was also wide, so I went into the inside. I wanted to exit, maybe overtaking both, but then I just looked and I saw they were going to touch. I even closed the throttle because if for some reason they crashed, I was coming behind, and this was a difficult situation or risky. And then I had this other moment, just being behind Pedro. My front was really on the limit, and luckily, thanks God, I saved that. I could continue the race, and from that moment, I was a bit more careful on first corner.
Another fantastic weekend for you, and Aprilia. Congratulations once again on another double podium, Jorge. We'll come on then to our third place finisher here in his 100th Grand Prix start, Pedro Acosta. Pedro, that was some recovery after a pretty nasty crash you had this morning in the warm-up at turn 2. To be on the podium once again, really the only rider that can take the fight to the Aprilias, and after the big scare on the first lap, you've got to be super happy to be here once again in the top 3.
Yeah, super happy. I just want to thank all KTM because at the end I destroyed a bike in the warm-up, let's say, and all the guys from the factory, even from Tektra, come to my box to try to repair that bike, to have a spare one for this. I'm super grateful for that. On the other hand, super happy to be again in the podium after the penalty of yesterday for this. Everything is coming good. I say at the beginning of the season that I just wanted to be inside this top 5 every race, and looks like we are trying to stand up in this podium always, for this. We have to be happy.
And talk us through that incident on the first lap at turn 11, because it was the big contact. We saw you leading right off the bike. Your knee was almost on the floor on the exit of turn 11. It looked like a real scary moment.
Yeah, for sure not the nicest way to start a race, but racing is like this. The problem that I just have to play my cards, and one of them was to try to be always in the front and push from the first lap. It's true that maybe in this breaking point with the fuel tank, I push too much, I go wide, and then was not easy, like Marco said, with the wind, when we have some wheelie, try to change the lines for this. Racing is like this. Thankfully, we can now see the moment and just say that everything finished quite okay.
You're in great shape right now on the KTM, but you always want more. It's clear to see that the Aprilia right now has an advantage. You've raced them closely in the first 3 rounds so far this season, so where do you feel that KTM just need to make that next step?
Well, at the end, it looks like Aprilia are finding something to turn better than the other brands. It's true that Ducati, with one rider, with the other one, is still being super competitive. Also, I'm super happy that the NEA this week can make a really big step, because it was helping a lot to the brand and to the factory, and even to me, to become better during the weekend for this. This is what we need at the moment. Try to find a base setup that everyone can ride quite fast, like NEA was doing this weekend, and like this during the weekends we will be able to grow up.
Pedro, congratulations. Great job for you today. Gentlemen, thanks for a great show here at the Horsepower Rodeo. We'll throw it open to questions, please, from the media. Thank you.
Neil Morrison, I've got a question for Marco, just over here, and a question for Pedro as well. Marco, we saw that contact with Pedro on the first lap. We saw bits breaking off the back of your bike. How did that affect the performance of your machine? Because it didn't look like it slowed you down.
Well, to be completely honest, obviously I didn't know I damaged my bike, but I noticed that in braking the bike was quite strange. I couldn't really force a lot in braking. If I tried to brake a bit late, especially when the fuel tank went a bit more empty, I couldn't really stop the bike, so a lot of sideways, a lot of slide, and was strange. So I really had to adapt myself in braking, but yeah, it was tough. But at the end, fortunately, was okay. I tried to adapt my riding and try to use the other strong points of the bike to go fast.
Okay, thank you. And Pedro, you spent the full race behind either one or two of the Aprilias. From what you could see, where is their bike just got a little advantage on the KTM at the moment?
Well, you know that since Aleix was already in Aprilia, training is quite awesome compared to the brands, even more with the KTM maybe. But they are quite consistent in all this T1 with the change of direction. They was not making any mistakes. Marco and Jorge both for this. It's quite difficult when you are making some mistake, just try to follow in the same pace, you know. But yeah, I think they are training a lot, and is where also the KTM is not our strong point, let's say.
Johnny Hopper with Moto Unfiltered. Marco, in motocross, we saw a generational talent, Jet Lawrence, be in something what's called a flow state. It's like tunnel vision. It's incredibly rare, but he was able to go undefeated. And it seems like there's something about you. Have you thought about potentially becoming undefeated for 2026?
No, not at all. Well, I mean, I think it's a dream for every rider, every MotoGP rider, but I don't think that at the moment my level is like this. So, of course, I try to do my best every race weekend. I try to be competitive, but it's also super easy to make some mistakes, as you saw yesterday, for example, by my side. So I don't want to think about these kind of things. I just want to work and be focused on my job and try to take out the best.
And Pedro, I know we've been talking a lot about the contact, but one thing I've noticed at MotoGP is they're open to giving out penalties pretty often. Do you think that aggressive riding is something to be a punishable offense?
I don't know, and I don't really care. I mean, at the end also depend about the contact that you have and how the situation is going. You know, at the end, in this case, everything goes well. For this, that's it.
BT Sport Bikes Inc. Questions to Pedro. Pedro, last year we talked, and I asked you if you got the lead, do you think you could hold everybody off for the entire race? And you said yes. So with that said, what track do you think you'll get your first victory on in Europe?
Well, at the end, time will say, you know. At the end, now for me, every race will be a question mark. Looks like out of Europe, the bike was working quite okay, and we more or less can follow the rhythm of the Ducatis and the Aprilias, but we don't have that much to try to beat them, you know. Even if today my bike don't have any broke wing or whatever, was going to be difficult to follow Marco, you know, because it looks like Aprilia and Ducati are matching quite well to every track, even if it's a stop and go or whatever. For this, Jerez will be another question mark for us.
Hi, Dimitris Diatsidis from Cosmote TV Greece. A question from each of you. Marco, when you saw in the last laps that Jorge was closing the distance, at that time you were in the mode to save tires and everything, or and then you again open the distance, or it was an attack that you were afraid that maybe he can do what he have done in Pecco yesterday?
Well, I was, of course, the race in MotoGP is always super long, so obviously you try to manage the tire and everything during the whole distance. Depends, of course, what race you are having, because if you are recovering is of course a different strategy. But Fortunately, I was in the front, so I could manage a bit, and then in the last 2 laps, I didn't really care about the tires, so I can finish them. So.
And a question for Jorge. Jorge, you were yesterday the only one to use the medium tires. This helped you today to manage the race better than the others?
I don't think so. I think today everybody was with the same cards, let's say. I think maybe my strongest point was at the beginning of the race, because I knew how I was going to react in braking. But I don't know why I just wanted to stay behind Pedro and Marco. So when I wanted to attack, I saw that I didn't have any advantage. I just had issues with the front. And yeah, we are all professional riders. We know how the tires work, and they were still super fast.
And Pedro, where do you think, between Thailand and now, where do you think that KTM improved and helped you making these results?
Well, it looks like the bike was faster than yesterday for this. Still a long way to go. Like I say, we know our limitations, and at the moment Aprilia and Ducati are 1 step in front of us, or maybe 2 for this. At the moment we are just trying to be inside this top 5 for every race and keep going like this.
I have another question for Jorge. On Thursday you were saying you were a little bit pessimistic about your physical condition at this very physical track this weekend, yet at the end of today's race we saw you catching Marco at one point. I mean, were you surprised a little bit at how well you felt on the bike at this late stage of the race?
Yeah, honestly, I thought it was going to be much worse. I was trying to save Friday, a bit of energy. Saturday I was feeling incredibly good. Then after yesterday's crash, you know, after winning, I had some pain on my hand, but yeah, I have a great physio. Anyway, I'm really focused on recovering, always trying to come back stronger the day after an effort. But yeah, today I was pushing with everything, and the last 3 laps I had to give up because my left arm was completely, fucked. I'm sorry for the word. It was completely destroyed. I couldn't brake anymore in corner 12, and I just left. Even that Marco did an amazing job, I couldn't do anymore. I just tried to finish.
Mela Chércoles, Diario AS and Cadena Ser. A question for Marco. Congratulations first. Can you imagine where is your limit?
Sorry?
Can you imagine where is your limit?
I think yesterday you saw my limit. At the end, when you try a bit too much, it's very close to the limit. So it's a very fine line between, in Italian, it's very funny this, but I don't know if I can say it in English. Anyway. At the end, it's always super tough because we are always at the limit. The MotoGP bikes are super extreme, and you always have to push a lot to go fast. And to find this small line and stay under this isn't easy. And so, yeah, I think is quite easy to define my limit. Yes.
Marco, Jorge, Pedro, we know Austin's a great party city. Enjoy your podium parties tonight in downtown. Well done, guys.